what we did yesterday, we tried to understand what is electric vehicle, what is hybrid electric vehicle, and then we tried to simulate a small system which is battery. So we tried to learn about how to simulate the battery system and typical lithium ion battery, how we can simply charge and discharge. Right. So that is what we covered in the day one. Now, what you are going to learn in day two. So today you are going to learn about how to set up the objectives for the model, right? How to decide on what should be the inputs, what can be the output, and what are your expectations, right, or expected outputs. So the second point, what you will learn is how to build an individual subsystem model and how to test it. Right. So we are going to create a model step by step, starting from the wheels to the battery. Then third point you will be learning today is steps for developing a model of an entire system. So here, what do I mean by an entire system? So this entire system is electric powertrain, right? So you will learn what are the steps, how you can develop the full system, right? How you can club all these small subsystems together and create a full electric vehicle model. And it's not only about modeling and it's whether it's running or not, but it is very very important the post processing, right? So once you build your model, once you are able to run without any errors, it is very important to know what is happening inside the model, right? So understanding of the results, and then it will help you to upgrade the model according to your requirement, right? So let me discuss about the first point, setting up the objectives, right? So what is the purpose of modeling? So today I'm going to create an electric vehicle model. What is the purpose of my modeling? So my purpose is to create uh, an electric vehicle which is going to run according to our inputs, right? So my purpose is not to check out what will happen to the motor if we have wide open throttle, right? Or my purpose of simulation is not just to analyze what is happening in the control system of a power converter, right? So my objective here is the overall simulation, right? So we need to put together all elements, right? And we are not going to analyze individual elements, or we are not going to analyze a very special case, right? We are going to just analyze a normal driving condition, right? So that is our objective. We are going to discuss about objectives in detail as well. So these are the points which you will learn today. Now, going back to an electric vehicle model and coming back to the point where we ended yesterday, the battery simulation, right? So let me show you the block diagram of an electric vehicle. So what is an electric vehicle and how we are going to start the development step by step? So the very first thing I'm going to cover is the vehicle body. So what is a vehicle body? Vehicle body is nothing but its chassis, its mechanical structure, along with the four wheels, right? So let's consider we are considering an electric car. So vehicle body is the very first model I'm going to create. Now, if I'm creating this vehicle body, I'm going to test this separately and then club with the next model, which is a motor, right? So once you have the vehicle body model ready, then you need to connect this with the motor, and the motor is going to provide power to the vehicle body. Once you have the motor and its electromechanical system in place, you can actually connect the motor with the battery. So battery will provide uh, energy to the motor, right? And what will happen if we connect battery directly to the motor? So guys, I'm going to check out your responses. So let me repeat the question. What will happen if we connect battery directly to the motor? So if I try to ask the same question in another way. So let's say if you have two terminals of a battery and two terminals positive and negative of a DC motor. So what will happen if you directly connect it? So directly the battery voltage is available to the motor and motor is going to run, right? But is the motor going to run as per our requirement? Yes or no, right? So I'm expecting your responses. What will happen if we directly connect the battery block to the motor without any kind of a control? So guys, let me check out the responses. Battery cannot be connected directly with the motor because we need some speed control, right? So in order to have a speed control, we need to use a power converter, right? So the battery will provide power to the power converter. Uh, Kaushik, are you there?
Yes, Vatsal, I can see the screen.
Okay, okay, yeah. So, okay, thanks for confirmation. So, can I go ahead?
Yes, Vatsal, we can go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So, battery can feed the power to power converter, and that will control the speed and torque generated by the motor, and therefore speed and torque of the vehicle, right? So, the entire control is done by this power converter. So, guys, if I make an analogy, right? So, the power converter is basically a muscular component in an electric vehicle powertrain. So, these are the muscles, and these muscles will be providing the power, or it's as equal as your hands and legs, right? So, when your mind is going to give some control commands, they will be followed, right? So, power converter similarly also receives some commands, right? So, from where the commands are going to come? The commands are going to come from the driver, right? So, when the power converter is going to feed the power, know what is the speed which is required, right? So, there will be a feedback, and that feedback will be given to the driver. So driver will understand what is the actual speed of the vehicle and what is the speed at which I want the vehicle to run, right? So there will be a driver, and driver is going to provide the control inputs, right? So these are called the user inputs, right? And this is a very simple arrangement. In fact, there will be a feedback loop, right? And there are a lot of other subcomponents over here, right? So because the motor speed or the motor shaft cannot be directly connected with the vehicle body, there may be a gear system. Uh, the battery and the power converter may be having some mismatch of the voltage, right? If you are using a very high voltage system, and if your battery is low voltage or at another voltage, then you will require a DC-DC converter over here, right? So there are many other subcomponents as well, which I have not included for simplicity. So this is as equal as your mind and your muscles, right? Your brain and the muscles. So brain is going to provide control signals to the muscles, and muscles will act accordingly, right? So as if you tell yourself that I want to now run, or now I need to walk in this direction for 5 steps, right? So that is exactly the control commands provided by the driver, and the power converters and the motor are going to follow that, right? So these are the muscular parts. This is the energy storage part. This is the energy stored in the chemical form in the battery. So guys, let's move ahead quickly, and let's try to build a small electric vehicle model, right? So let's, before we simulate, it's very important to understand what is our own expectation, right? Or what exactly we are interested to simulate, right? So let me share these points. So in this simulation, we want to make a most simple model, right? At the same time, my objective is also to make a runtime of the simulation very low, right? So let's say, for example, I want to simulate a situation where I'm driving an electric car for half an hour, right? So during half an hour, if I'm running this car, my simulation time should not be half an hour, right? So it should be definitely less than 30 minutes, right? So probably, let's say in 1 or 2 minutes, I should be able to finish my simulation on the computer, right? So my computer speed and the simulation speed should be such that I am able to match with the real-time scenario, right? So we are going to use the individual component blocks, right? So we are not going to use any readily available electric powertrain block, right? So we want to use as simple blocks as available in the MATLAB and simulation. The second objective is to run the individual modules and then try to integrate them, right? So we are going to have a step-by-step method how to do this. Once the simulation is done, what I want to actually check on electric four-wheeler. So I want to check whether it is matching with the speed requirement or not, what is the state of charge, what is the battery left, right? And what is the current taken from various instant of time, right? And if I want to play with my simulation, I want to basically get the idea about motor power and vehicle body modifications, right? So if I change the aerodynamic drag coefficient, if I change the number of passengers or the dead weight of the vehicle, and if I want to change anything else in the vehicle, what will happen to the vehicle, right? With the same motor power, am I able to achieve these parameters or not, right? So that is what you can play with, right? So to play with is nothing but what is the idea that you want to get, right? So this is what you will be doing frequently by changing the parameters, and you will run the simulation again and again. So the other purpose is to know which are the MATLAB models or Simulink blocks available and how we can configure them and how to learn this readily available blocks, right? So this is what we are exactly interested, right? And in order to do this, the very first thing we need to understand is what is the way in which I'm going to drive the vehicle, right? So, and I want to estimate how much is the energy required for a driving cycle. So before I explain you about estimation of the total energy, I need to explain you about what is a drive cycle, right? So for example, if you start your ride with a motorcycle in the morning at 9 o'clock and you reach your destination, maybe your college or your office at 9:30, right? So during the 30 minutes, let's say for example, you covered around 10 kilometers. So during this ride of 10 kilometers with time duration of 30 minutes, your speed was never constant, right? So you started with a kickstart, right, for your motorcycle, and then probably you went up in first gear, then second and third, then it was a crossroad, right? And then you stop for let's say 5 to 10 seconds, and then your speed was again reaching to the top at 60, 70 kilometers per hour. And then probably we do not know what is the driving pattern, right? What is the speed versus time curve? So in order to do this, you need to basically understand what is a drive cycle. So let me first explain you what is a drive cycle. So a driving cycle is the variation in speed with reference to time, right? So more realistic cases for better modeling of the energy and therefore the range, right? So you can do the analysis of range of an electric vehicle if you have the understanding of the drive cycle, or if you know how you are going to run your vehicle in the simulation, right? So we are making it predefined. So how you are going to run, it is going to be predefined. It is already there and it is considered as a input data, right? So what is your input data? Speed versus time. So let's say I'm going to run my simulation for 30 minutes, and for 30 times 60, right? So let's say it's 1800 seconds. So sorry, 900 seconds. So for 30 minutes, 900 seconds, we need to understand what is the variation in speed every second, right? So here we define the speed at every second, and that is how we simulate the vehicles, right? So the system level simulation of the vehicle is done by using the drive cycle data. So what is how this concept is coming into, right, or what is the purpose of having this drive cycle phenomena. So the drive cycle purpose was mainly developed for emission test, right? So if you consider IC engine vehicles, these vehicles are going to come up with a compliance that this is going to certify with BS5 or BS6, right? Or any other previous standards like Euro 3, Euro 4, and so on. So the emission standards were required to be followed, and in order to have all standardization, right? So when I am going to test the emission at my end, and you are going to test the emission at your side, it should not be anything different, right? It should be matching with the same standard. So this driving cycle is acting as a industry standard for testing of emissions and mileage of the vehicle, right? So when you go in the market and you ask for what is the mileage of this car, they are going to declare this along with a star, right? So that star means that conditions apply. What are those conditions? These conditions are standard test condition under the testing environment, right? So your car is going to be there on the dynamometer, and this drive cycle will be operated, and accordingly the how much is the fuel consumption that will be calculated, and per liter mileage that will be given to you as a customer, right? So driving cycles is a kind of a testing standard, right? So if I give you a pattern of speed versus time, and you really don't know how you are driving on the road, right? So it depends on many situations. So how much time you have to reach the destination, what are the road conditions, what are the environmental conditions, what are the traffic conditions, right? But let's say hypothetically you are driving your vehicle like this, right? So this may be one of the curve which is called as drive cycle, or one of the graph, speed versus time graph. And this is a drive cycle which is a standard drive cycle, FUDS. So it's a Federal Urban Driving Schedule, and it is represented like this, right? So when I say that this version of petrol car is going to have 20 kilometers per liter mileage, then we clearly say that in engineering FUDS, this is the mileage of this car or this engine, right? So that is the drive cycle. Now once you know what is the drive cycle, you need to understand how do we calculate the energy required, right? So this is the speed versus time, and what you will get if you integrate this, right? So let's say here you have the speed versus time curve, right? What you will get if you integrate this curve? So let me start sharing my whiteboard session. So here I'm going to draw a speed versus time curve. No, it is not constant speed. So I'm going to plot speed versus time. So here on this y-axis we have speed in kilometers per hour, and this is time in seconds. And let's say my drive cycle is very simple. It is like this, right? So this is how today I was riding my bicycle, right? And this time period is around let's say 1,000 number of seconds, and this high speed is around 25 kilometers per hour, right? So if this is in kilometers per hour, right? Here you have in kilometers per hour, and here you have in seconds. What you will get if you integrate this area, right? Or what is represented by this area under the curve, right? Integration is nothing but area under this curve. So what you will get once you do this integration? So guys, I will be waiting for your responses. What you will get if I am going to integrate the area under this curve? So yes, so now I'm able to see the responses. it's not the work done, it's the distance, correct? So it's not the acceleration, right? So when I integrate this, I'm going to basically get the kilometers, right? So let's say kilometers per hour is multiplied with the times in seconds, and if you convert the seconds into hour, you will get the kilometers, right? So basically, how you get the distance by just integrating this, right? So this is a simple mathematics. You will get the distance when you are going to have uh, integration of the drive cycle. So turning off my whiteboard and coming back to the presentation slide, so the drive cycle is very important, and that is the input we are going to give to the model, right? So we want to run our model, run our electric car model on this type of speed time input. So coming back to how do we model this, right? How to calculate the total energy required. So the total energy required can be calculated from this diagram where you have the battery, the motor controller, you have a transmission system and a road and the wheels, right? Or basically this is a vehicle model, this is the transmission system model, and here you have the electrical components. Now, how do you estimate the energy required? So you need to understand what is the losses at each end, right? What is the efficiency level of motor and controller? What is the efficiency of the gear system? And accordingly you will get the idea about how much is the energy required to move the vehicle, right? How much will be the capacity of the battery. So in order to understand this, you basically have the idea about all these parameters: efficiency of battery, efficiency of motor, and efficiency of gear. So what is the efficiency of battery? It is based on how much energy you put in while you were charging it, right? So from your charger, from your supply, there will be efficiency of the charger component as well, right? So let's say your energy meter is reading 2 units of energy consumed while charging an electric scooter. So out of this 2 units, how much is the kilometers you will get on the roads? That is going to be the entire system level efficiency. Now there will be individual efficiency as well, right? So how much energy you put in, the battery may not be able to fully deliver that energy, right? Because of the lower voltage cutoff, right? The motor and controller will not be also 100% efficient. Now this efficiency is actually dependent on the speed, right? So and other environmental factor as well, right? Let's say for example temperature. So the ambient temperature, the road condition, the driving conditions are also going to affect this efficiency. So the efficiencies are also varying with the speed, and that should be also taken into account for accurate simulation, right? So let's go ahead and do the simulation now. So what are the building blocks I'm going to use for Simulink model? So these are the Simscape blocks I'm going to use, and this is what is going to be the first step. So guys, this is going to be the first step. I'm going to prepare a vehicle body, or I will say the chassis, with the wheels, right, and the tires. So the chassis and the tires will be making a basic vehicle body along with its weight, right? So this is going to be the first step. Then we are going to put up all the components, right? Uh, the steering, the control system, uh, the weight of the driver, the motor, and the battery, right? So these are the blocks which I have chosen to use for today's simulation, right? So it's totally up to you that you may would like to use an induction motor instead of interested to carry out a simulation with a BLDC motor with a three-phase inverter, right? So it's totally up to you that what is your choice of Simulink models, right? And once you have all these blocks, you will be developing a full car like this, right? So you are going to basically develop first the vehicle body, and you add all components, and then you prepare a full car, right? So this is my choice of building blocks, right? Your choice can be different, and these are very simple blocks, as I said, integrated. So if I want to get the idea about what is the distance that my car has covered, right? So I'm going to integrate the speed with time, and that is going to give me the distance. I need to get the idea about how much is the capacity left. So I'm going to use this integrator to integrate the current over the period of time, and then I can calculate what is the remaining capacity of the battery. Right. So I'm going to use Excel sheet as well. I'm going to use some other basic blocks as well. Now, before I start building this, let me go through basic understanding of what is Simulink and how to use the Simulink library. Right. So here I'm showing you a Simulink library. Kaushik, can you please confirm whether I'm able to share the Simulink library with you? So, guys, what we are looking at is a Simulink library. I guess if this is the first time you are looking at it, you will not basically understand. But you can consider these are the Lego blocks, right? So these are the individual blocks. Let's say, for example, if I show you mathematical operations, right? So yesterday I taken add block, right, and showed you that how to add two numbers and how basically the simulation works, right? So here is a add block. So there are many number of blocks, right? And this is just a Simulink library, and there are many other block set as well, right? So if you have this Lego blocks, you can create your model systematically and you can play with your simulation. So let me go to a blank window. So this is kind of a blank simulation window, and here I can add all the blocks. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start the simulation step by step, like I explained to you, right? So first is I'm going to create the vehicle model, right? So or the vehicle body. So for the vehicle body, I'm going to search on something as vehicle body, right? So there are probably many options available in MATLAB and Simulink. So let's say this is a vehicle body. Now, when I'm going to put this vehicle body model in my simulation, probably it will not look like a vehicle body, right? So the Simulink language, it's totally different. So it is a vehicle body, but it doesn't look like that. So it's a box, right? Now, how to read this block or how to understand this particular box? So you need to assume that all the mathematical equations related to vehicle body are kept inside this box, right? And that is what we have seen yesterday in the battery model as well. So there is a lot of mathematics behind this, and this block basically consists of mathematics, right? Or all governing equations. Now, what are those equations? So if you double click this, you can basically set up the parameters, or you can configure this block. So what is the weight of the vehicle body, right? And this is not going to be including with the passenger weight. What is kind of how many number of wheels are there per axles, right? And how many, what is the horizontal distance of center of gravity from the front axle, rear axle, and what is the gravitational acceleration coefficient, right? How much is the drag coefficient? This is very important parameter. What is the air density you are going to consider for this vehicle body? Are there any pitch dynamics or not, right? And what is the frontal area of the vehicle, right? So you need to input all these parameters over here, and now with this vehicle body, you need to connect the tires, right? So what is represented by an R and an F? These are basically the forces available on the front and the rear axle, right? So beta is something where angle, and it is also represented by a symbol over here. So it is the gradient, right? Or the if your vehicle is driving on the uphill, right, or if it is climbing on a flyover, you need to assign some degree of beta angle over here. Now this is the output port, which is going to be the velocity. This is the W, which is basically the wind velocity as the input. H is basically the hub, right? So we need to connect the axles and the hub with this vehicle body. So let me start using the tire model, right? So if I'm going to search with tire, so there are basic models of the tire with a simple formula and with a magic formula, right? So I think if you are a mechanical engineering student, you might have come across the vehicle dynamics theory and you may be knowing what is magic formula, right? So if not, I think if you double click over here and if you go to help, right, you will get the idea about what is mathematics behind the tire which is implemented over here. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to make it as a four wheel, right? So here, so let's say we are going to make this as a four wheel condition. So this is one wheel and this is another wheel, and let me keep two more wheels over here. So I'm going over here like this and over here like this, right? So let me consider this is the front wheels, right? So these are the front wheels. I'm going to connect NF with the front wheel of N, right? Now, what is this AHS, right? So basically, if you double click on this and try to read this, you will get the idea about what are all this, right? So N is a physical signal input port and which is a normal force. So N stands for a normal force. What are the other ports? H is a mechanical hub, right? So it's a wheel hub, right? So A is basically the axle, right? So we need to understand how we are going to provide the forces to this. And now let me connect this N to NR over here, right? Probably I need to change the direction, okay? Change the direction for this also. So now N is easily connected over here like this. Now A, I'm going to connect it with the axle, right? So let this going to be the rear axle, right? And I need to connect my powertrain shaft, right? Or the driving shaft over here, right? Let me connect the axle of the front wheel also together. This is going to be the front axle, and this will be together going to be the hub, right? And I can connect the hub with the vehicle body. So now, what is this connection? This connection basically represents the hub is connected with the vehicle body, right? So we are mounting the vehicle body on all these four tires, right? So similarly, I need to connect H with over here as well, right? So I'm connecting the hub over here as well. So this is the overall vehicle body along with the four tires. Now what I need to get is how to provide the speed and torque to the axle on the rear wheel, right? So let's consider our electric vehicle model is rear wheel drive, and I'm going to have one output connection like this, and let me create a subsystem of this, right? So let me consider all this block as a vehicle body block, and we are going to create a subsystem, right? So now what is this? So all those components are now part of this subsystem, right? So if I double click on this, I'm going to go back to whatever is available over here. Now, have you guys seen there are many connecting ports over here, right? So there is a connecting port for S port, right? And there are many other S port available over here, right? So if you are not interested in connecting this or using this, we can basically use a terminator block, or basically you can connect with a constant block over here. So let me go into the detail, and let's say we do not want to simulate our vehicle on a flyover, right? We want to simulate the condition which is level ground. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to have a constant over here, and this constant is nothing but a 0, right? So let me say this is 0, and this 0 is going to be the gradient angle. Now let me try connecting this. So this is a 0 as a digital value, and this is the vehicle body which is going to accept the physical value, right? So if I try to connect the value with the physical signal, I will not be able to make a connection. So why I'm not able to make the connection? Because these two are different signals, right? So one is a physical signal, this one is going to be a constant, which is a number, right? So what I need to do, I need to use a PS to Simulink converter or Simulink to physical signal converter and add it over here, or I can use a PS or physical system constant, right? So what is a PS constant? It is nothing but a constant, right? Same as this one, but it is able to connect with this part, right? So here we are able to now connect because it is also representing the physical system, right? So PS stands for physical system, and we can assign a value over here, and this value is, let's say, 0, and you can assign the units as well, right? So this is the difference between a normal constant and a PS constant. So PS constant can take up any expression, can be any value, right? It may be a Newton, Pascal, it can be meter per second, it can be radian per second, it can be kilograms, anything, right? So it can be also the voltage and ampere, right, which are electrical physical signals. Right now we consider it as a unitless and it's a constant 1, right? So now whenever I'm going to connect the PS constant, if I go out with my subsystem, over here there will be 1 point less, right? So I need not to connect all these connections, right? So similarly I need to remove all these connections, and what I need to do, let's say we also fix the wind velocity. So let's say the wind velocity is fixed and we are interested to see the velocity output, right? So instead of CONN1, which is a default name, I'm going to set this as a vehicle speed, right? So this is my vehicle speed port. This port is my input shaft, right? So I'm going to write here input shaft, right? So that I'm going to remember where I'm going to connect the input shaft. So here, when I connect the input shaft, it is required to do the input shaft over here. So if I come back to subsystem, it will be, let's say, input shaft over here, right? So now this is the input shaft. Now this is the vehicle speed output. So this is going to be an input signal. This is going to be an output signal, right? So these are the in and out of a subsystem. And now I can make the subsystem like any, right? So basically I can consider this as a block. I can put a picture of a vehicle body over here so that I remember this is a vehicle body. I can basically rename over here as well, right? So this is one block, vehicle body. So guys, what exactly we are doing in the simulation? So let's get out of this and try to understand what exactly we are doing. So if I go back and if I share what exactly we are doing, so let me share one analogy with you, right? So guys, you might have worked on a do-it-yourself small salt car, right? So this is a kind of kit which comes up with the parts which are of a small car, right? So what you have here is basically a screwdriver. This is a permanent magnet, very small DC motor. Here is where you can give the salt through this dropper. Here you have the gears. Here you have some kind of a mechanism where you can fix those gears and have the wheels, right? And basically if you keep this anode, cathode and salt water together, it is going to produce some electricity, and with around 1.5 to 3 volt you can basically run this car, right? So if you have done this stuff, that is what exactly we are trying to replicate in a MATLAB model, right? So now we have a vehicle body ready. Now we need to think of which motor we are going to use. We need to think of what is the gear system which is required, and what is going to be the source of energy, and what is going to be the vehicle body, right? So guys, if I share something, and if I open up a new window with let's say salt water car, this is going to be something like this, right? So if I show you some image, this is what is a salt water car, right? So when you this is the vehicle body, and I have already shown you some of the parts, right? So you just need to add a salt water drop, and this is going to continue for, let's say, around 5 to 10 minutes, right? So this car will continue running for 5 to 10 minutes, and this is this, it's kind of a good exercise of car assembly for kids, right? So if you know this, right, what are the components, you can actually replicate the same into a MATLAB model, right? So let me go to the MATLAB model and try to work upon other parts as well. So what is the important part which we are missing over here? Let me disconnect this terminal and let me add a gear as well. So when I'm going to search with a gear, so there will be a gearbox, there is a worm gear, there is a planetary gear, and there are sun planet worm gear. So there are so many gear models available in the Symbolic. So let me use a simple gear because I'm not quite sure about which gear to use, but I'm just interested in a ratio, right? So whatever is the speed of the vehicle and whatever is the speed of this input shaft, that ratio is to be maintained, or that ratio is to be capped over here. So it's a fixed ratio gearbox, and let's say I'm going to keep it as by default, right? And there will be losses happening in the gearbox as well. So the mashing losses and the viscous losses are modeled as well, right? So if you want to model those losses of a gearbox, you can add it over here. Now another important thing is the output shaft at the point F can rotate in the reverse direction or in the same direction as well, right? So you need to be clear when you are going to keep it with your vehicle, in which direction you want to run your vehicle, right? And basically you can get the idea from about it from the velocity, and you now it's possible to connect this with axle, right? So here is my connection. I'm connecting the simple gear to the real axle, right? So the rear axle is going to be connected here, and this point will be connected to the input, right? So guys, we see a lot of different colors over here. So what is the meaning of different colors? So I'm going to explain the same to you, right? So some blocks are in red color like this. So the physical systems, physical constant are in red color. There is a different color for mechanical systems. So when you see a tire, it's basically a green color. Now there are two different green colors as well, right? So they refer to different kinds of signals, right? Now let me come out of this vehicle body subsystem and put a motor out of it, right? So I'm going to connect a motor shaft over here. So I'm going to use a DC motor, and there are many motors available, but I'm going to choose this simple one, and let me connect the R port over here with the input shaft, right? So I'm going to connect the R port of a motor over here. Now you guys may not be aware of how the motor look like, right? Or how the model of the motor will look like, but the Simulink is showing here uh, the model which looks something like this. So if I zoom in a bit, what you are able to see, there is something electrical connection, positive wire and the negative wire over here, and something which is mechanical over here through the green connections, right? And there is a connection between blue and the green, which is nothing but an electromechanical connection. So you give electrical input to the motor, you get the mechanical output from the motor, right? So R is something which we are going to connect with the shaft, right? And this is going to be connected over here, right? So now we have connected the shaft of the motor with the input, right? So that is what we are able to do now. And let me adjust the model a bit, right? So that we are able to put other blocks as well. Now, what is the C part? So what is the positive, negative, R and C? You can learn it from the help available over here, right? So this is basically the mechanical output port, and it is going to provide a positive torque which is going to be in the direction of C to R, right? So C is going to be a reference. It's basically casing, right? What is a casing? Casing is nothing but something related to fixture, right? Or something related to reference. So how you fix your motor, right? So guys, if you have done some exercise with this kind of stuff, right? What will happen if you keep your shaft in the hand, right? If you fix your shaft, right, and if you try to supply this motor, what will happen? This motor will rotate, right? So shaft will remain constant or will not rotate. The motor body will rotate, right? And the same thing you might have experienced with your ceiling fan. If you uh, keep your ceiling fan hold it with your hand, right, the motor will try to rotate. But the motor is again fixed with the ceiling, and it is going to basically waste the energy. Your fan is going to get heated up, right? So it's very important where you fix your motor, right, because it is going to apply the rotation, and that is where we are going to fix the rotating reference frame, right? So I need to find out a mechanical reference frame, right? And that is the first result, mechanical rotational reference. So this is a mechanical rotational reference, right? And that is what we can connect over here, and that is going to be the motor fixture. So here we assume that the motor is now fixed with the mechanical rotational reference, right? And this is nothing but going to be the chassis of the car, right? In practical consideration. Now what we are going to do, so I'm going to connect the vehicle speed to some output port over here. We can use some display over here where the speed will be displayed, the distance will be displayed. We basically need a scope as well. So I'm going to use a scope block as well. Now this speed and the distance will require an integrator. So I need an integrator block as well. So basically what I'm going to do, one after another, I'm going to add all these blocks, right? So when I'm going to add the tires and the vehicle body, the gear and the inertia, I'm going to add the remaining blocks as well, right? So let me add all the remaining blocks which are required to create a vehicle model. And once you are going to see the vehicle model, it's going to be a kind of uh, let's say mixture of all such blocks, right? It will never look like a vehicle, but yeah, but it's going to represent a mathematical equations of an electric vehicle, right? So let's say we have a DC motor. Now I need to control this DC motor, right? As we know, let's use a battery as well. So this is a battery, and this is what the battery which is going to supply this DC motor, right? Now how this DC motor will be controlled? So there are many DC motor controller available, but I'm going to choose a DC motor controller which is suitable for this application, and we can use basically H bridge, right? So let me use an H bridge. So what is an H bridge? So let me give you an idea of what is an H bridge. So basically, in order to control the DC motor, we need a power converter. So this H bridge is a type of power converter. Now, for example, if somebody is using real DC motor over here or induction motor over here, they basically need to convert this 2-wire DC to 3-wire AC system, right? And therefore it requires an inverter, right? So all electric vehicles have an inverter or a power converter, right? So if it is a permanent magnet DC motor like this, you will not require an inverter, you will require a simple H bridge, right? Which is basically some circuit configuration like this, right? So let me show you that circuit configuration. So if I show you that configuration, it is exactly like this, right? So here is where your positive voltage, where you will be giving the supply from the battery, right? So let me keep this aside and explain it so that you do not get mixed up with the other models. So here is a battery, right? So I'm going to connect this with this, connect the negative over here. So these are my blue electrical connections, right? So this is motor is also blue. The mechanical rotating parts are green. The mechanical angular velocity are some other shade of green. Then electrical systems are blue, right? How we are now required to connect this, right? So this is the output, and I'm going to connect over here like this. So this is our overall connection, right? So this connection will help us to understand this is a battery power and this is the motor over here, and these are the switches. How many switches we have? We have four number of switches, right? Now what exactly this edge bridge is going to do? So let me explain that to you. Now I'm going to use the whiteboard. So let me use the whiteboard. Uh, Kaushik, are you there? If you can please confirm I am able to see the whiteboard.
Yes, Vatsal, I can see a whiteboard.
Okay, thanks. So, what is the whiteboard stuff over here? I'm going to explain about H-bridge, right? And how does the power converter work like? So, let's say here we have a battery, right? Now, battery is kind of a voltage source, right? But it is going to be with a limited power, right? So it's a limited energy capacity and limited voltage range kind of a voltage source, right? So this is a battery over here, and let's say here we have a motor, right? So this is a motor. Now I need to control the DC voltage available over here, right? So what basically I'm going to do, let's say this battery voltage is 100, right? Now, instead of giving the 100 voltage directly to the motor, what we are going to do, we are going to control the voltage from 0 to 100, right? And an electric motor is such a subsystem where if you change the voltage, its speed is going to change. Its developed torque is also going to change. So now if I have variable output voltage from 0 to 100 across these terminals, what we are going to do, we need to reduce this voltage, right? So how to step down this voltage? So that is possible by using on and off through a semiconductor device. So what is a semiconductor switch, right? Or what is a power converter? So a power converter is a device which is basically a switch, and this switch is going to connect and disconnect the circuit, right? So now, for example, I have this very simple connection like this, right? So I'm going to connect negative with negative now, and there is a switch over here. Now this switch, if it is going to turn on, right? So 100 voltage is available over here. If this switch is open or off, it is going to be zero voltage. So open circuit, there is no voltage or there is no current flowing through this switch, right? Now this switch can be as equal as your switch where you connect and disconnect the circuit, but essentially it is controlled through a control signal, and it is very fast, right? So how much time a switch is going to take, if it is going to be a ceiling fan switch or a tube light switch, it will take much amount of time, right? Let's say in few seconds. But these switches are so fast, they can operate at very high speed, and the on time and off time are in nanoseconds, right? So these switches are going to become on and off at very high speed, right? So what we are going to get in the output voltage is some kind of this signal, and it is called a pulse width modulated signals. So this is, let's say, the on period where the voltage is available to the motor and it's 100 voltage, and now the voltage is not available because switch was off. So this is the on duration of the switch, and the remaining is the off duration, and then followed by the on duration again. So this kind of voltage is available to the motor, and what motor is going to see? The motor is going to see the average of this because it is happening very fast. So an average voltage can be somewhere around 25. So even though we have the source voltage of 100 volt, we are able to control that and reduce that to 25 volt average. Right. So that is what is actually happening inside a power converter. right? So now let me go back to the model and try to connect with the different parts of the circuit, right? So now, why do we have the four number of switches? You might have a question related to why not only one switch, right? So only one switch cannot control the motor in both the ways, right? So let's say, for example, you want to get the energy back from the motor to the battery, which is regenerative braking. That is where you need a four number of switches, right? That is where the power flow should be in both the direction, right? So an H bridge is basically a power converter where the current can flow in reverse direction as well, and you can run this motor in the reverse direction as well, right? So what is that? Reverse is where you need to give a control signal to, right? So this may be your reverse gear, right? It may be the input from the driver, and there is another input which is called a brake, right? So if you want to apply the brake, the regenerative braking can also happen, right? So because the brake is available in this model, I'm choosing it for my simulation, and therefore I'm able to achieve the regenerative braking, right? So this is going to be the PWM input. This is going to be what is going to be my reference voltage, and I'm going to connect this to the ground. This is going to be electrical ground. If you see this ground, this is basically a mechanical ground, right? So, or a mechanical rotating reference frame, right? So let me connect all these things, and once all these things are available, what we need to do, we need to give some kind of control signals, right? So let's say here I'm going to give the acceleration input, right? So let me name this as acceleration input, right? And let me name this as a brake pedal input. So I'm going to apply acceleration over here, I'm going to apply the brake over here, right? So once my brake and acceleration signals are available, this H bridge controller will control this motor in such a way that our vehicle will run at a required speed. Now this vehicle speed I need to take into feedback, right? So now let me go to this part and explain you about how we are going to control this, right? So let me include the driver over here, right? So what is a driver? So driver is nothing but um, an element in the model which will follow the speed commands, right? So here we have a longitudinal driver, right? So this is basically a person driving a car, right? So let me go to the left part of the simulation. So here is where our driver comes. So what is this? What you see over here? So there is an accelerator command, and there is a brake command. And guys, if I directly connect this, right, it's not compatible, right? If I want to directly have a deceleration command, I will not be able to directly connect this, right? So this is my acceleration command. This is the acceleration command, which I will be eventually connecting this to brake over here, right? So I need to match this signals, because this is electrical signal, this is a physical signal. I need to convert this into equivalent control signals, right? And that is where exactly you will find in electric vehicle as well. So when you are changing this, there will be kind of a sensor, there will be kind of a variable resistor, right? So if you see an electric scooter where there is a throttle, that throttle is going to vary the voltage between 0 to 5, and that is what you will receive in the electrical input. So these are basically going to be the sensors over here, right, which will connect the physical input to the electrical quantity. Now, what is going to be this, right? We need to give a vehicle feedback, right? So where this is going to be the vehicle feedback. So let me take this arrow and let me take this vehicle feedback from the right side of the model. Now, where is the vehicle feedback? Okay, this is where is the vehicle speed, right? So here I'm going to connect this part over here, and if I try to connect again, this is a physical signal, and this is some other type of a signal, right? So here also we need a signal converter block, right? So we are going to connect this. Now coming to the reference, right? if I talk about what should be the vehicle reference, so I need to now add something as driving cycle, right? So I need to now add a drive cycle source. So basically, what is a drive cycle source? It is the input of the speed versus time data, right? So let me expand this block. You will get the basic idea about how what is a drive cycle, right? So if I do like this, and if I expand this model, uh, this is what is FTP75 drive cycle. So this is what is speed versus time over the uh, period of time, right? So these are the speed values, right? If I double click on this block, what you will see is different option for drive cycles, right? So you can take it from the workspace variable as well. You can define.
Vachal, uh, Vachal, so your screen has just stopped, and so it is on standby. So it would be great if you can try resharing it again.
Okay. Okay. So guys, we were discussing about power converter and H bridge over here. Uh, So guys, don't worry. I'm going to repeat after this, and I will request Kaushik to keep a close eye on the comments in the chat box, right? So that I need not to repeat again. Can you please confirm my MATLAB screen is visible now?
Yes, Vachal.
Okay, so what I was discussing is the H bridge, right? And this H bridge requires four number of switches like this, right? So this was the connection. So positive of the battery to one of the switch, and then it can go to motor. But what is going to be the return? If we want to reverse the connection, there will be another switch required, or a different pair of switches required, right? So therefore, H bridge consists of four power semiconductor switches, and this is basically an ideal model, right? So uh, if you consider a power controller or a motor controller of an electric vehicle, uh, you need to take into account such kind of power converters, right? So I'm going to use H bridge over here. It's a battery connected like this. Now the PWM input is something which is going to be the acceleration command from the driver. Now, what is this driver? So I was talking about this driver, right? What is a driver? So guys, let me explain you what is a driver and what does a driver model do. So think of a situation where you are sitting behind your friend, right? And your friend is a driver. Now, what you are going to do, you are going to tell your friend who is driving the motorcycle, that what is the exact speed at which you should drive, right? So let's say you are going to start. Now the motorcycle is in the first gear, and you say that okay, drive at 10 kilometers per hour. So now your friend is going to follow your command, and it will bring the speed of the vehicle, which is 10 kilometers per hour. So what is the action that will be taken? The action is going to be like it is going to increase the fuel input, right, or increase the throttle command. So that throttle command which is increased, now that should go to the PWM input, right? So guys, in the whiteboard session, I have explained you what is a PWM session, what is a pulse width modulation. So basically, this is going to be the acceleration command, and this is going to be the brake command, right? So BRK stands for the brake, and if you want to reverse your vehicle, it is also possible with this electrical signal. What I was talking about this, right? So there is a mismatch of signal over here, and in order to match the signal, you need to have a kind of a matching blocks where these are the physical signals and these are electrical signals. You need to take care of the gate driver and other electrical control signals. So then only you will be able to connect these lines. But what happens in an actual vehicle, right? So let's say you are having an electric scooter. So electric scooter is having the throttle, right? So when you have an accelerator or a throttle in your hand, when you change the position of the throttle, the voltage is going to vary. So that is a kind of a sensor which varies the voltage according to position. Now that is going to be the sensor which is over here, right? So we definitely do not implement any sensor kind of a situation over here, but we basically convert the input signal, a position change signal, into equivalent electrical control input signal. Right. So that is what exactly we are doing. What is this driver? Driver is going to follow the command which follow the, this which command it's going to follow. It's going to follow the velocity feedback. From where it is coming? It is coming from this line, and it is coming from the vehicle body, right, or vehicle model. Now this vehicle is also, or this driver is also required to be told that what is the speed I am required to run, right? So let's say you are the friend and you are this friend sitting behind the driver, right? And you are going to connect these 2 points like this, right? So whatever is your reference speed, that is your velocity reference, and your actual speed of the vehicle is the vehicle feedback. Now, what the driver is going to do? The driver is nothing but a controller, right? So it's basically a PI controller. Now, this PI controller is going to have the proportional and integral gain, and it is going to try to follow the command which is given by the drive cycle source. So here is a drive cycle source block, right? So guys, let me explain you again because we missed on the part. This is a longitudinal driver model where it is going to give us the accelerator and the brake command. It is also going to listen from you or let's say a fixed set of speed versus time data. It is going to take the feedback input from what is the actual speed of the vehicle. Now this actual and the set point difference will be calculated as error by this driver model, and that error will be minimized such that it is going to provide the acceleration command or brake command, right? So this is exactly how the driver works, right? And this is exactly how you told your friend to follow the speed, right? So this is the drive cycle source. Over here you can have your speed versus time in the Excel format. It is also possible to build your signal in the signal builder block and so on, right? So this is all about how to create a model step by step, right? So if I open this and if I plot this drive cycle, right? So this drive cycle will look something like this, right? So let me show you what this drive cycle will look like. So FTP stands for the Federal Test Procedure. So according to this standard FTP 75, this is the velocity in meter per second, and over 2500 number of seconds this cycle is going to be there. Now what should happen, right? So whenever you are asking to increase the speed of the vehicle, right? So let's say over here, so when we want the vehicle speed to be increased, we want the driver to increase the acceleration command, right? When the speed is decreasing in this area, we want the driver to decide on the brake command. So keep your leg out of the accelerator and apply the brake pedal, right? So that is what the driver should be able to do. Now how the driver can decide whether accelerator pedal is to be pressed or brake pedal is to be pressed? It can decide based on the previous value and the present value of the velocity. So based on the previous value and the present value of the velocity, the driver is going to decide whether the previous reference was higher than the previous value, right? And if it is higher, then it is required to accelerate. If it is lower, then it is required to decelerate. Or it can be done in a simple way where if you take the derivative of this, right? What will be the derivative of the speed? So guys, can anyone please comment in the chat box what is going to be the derivative of the speed? So we have taken the integration of the speed, and that was distance, right? So the derivative of the speed is going to be the acceleration. Yes, correct. So the acceleration value, so whether we are getting the positive acceleration or the negative acceleration, based on that the driver can decide if the positive acceleration is there, I need to put my leg on the accelerator pedal. If negative value of acceleration is that, I need to put my leg on the brake pedal, right? So this is about the drive cycle. And if you systematically connect everything, right, you take the integration of this, probably you define the battery parameters, here the voltage of the battery and the voltage of the motor at which it works should be matching. Now the RPM required for the vehicle and the RPM required for this should be matching, right? So what you need to do, you need to give here a clear idea about what is going to be the speed range, right, and what is going to be the power, right? So you need to consider the rated power, right? You need to consider what is the rated speed in RPM, how much is the wattage rating of the motor. This is basically a very low power motor as a by default Simulink connection or by default values. So you need to change a lot of things over here and then convert this into an EV motor. Now convert this battery into an EV battery where let's say your system voltage is 300 volt or 400 volt, right? So usually in the car, high voltage batteries are preferred. Some cars are also available with the low voltage. So if you want to run your simulation with the low voltage, you can keep here as 48 volt or 72 volt or 100 volt. But it's up to your choice, right? So whatever is kept over here, that should be matching with the DC motor, right? So what you guys need to do in order to develop this model, you need to step by step test individual system, right? So I haven't shown over here how to step by step test individual system, right? So let's say your vehicle body is ready. Now you want to get the idea about how much power this vehicle is going to require, right? And at what speed, what is the torque required. So what you can do, you can basically keep this all system aside. You forget about the motor, right? You disconnect this as well and you try to provide a torque reference, right? So you can basically assume your motor as a torque source, right? So if I write over here a torque source, right? So it's an ideal torque source over here, right? So if I use this block, let me take this block out of this area. So if you use this block, you will try to realize that, okay, so it's possible to test your vehicle using this torque source alone, right? So you try to give the torque value from this point, you try to fix this C with a casing and you try to connect R with your shaft of the motor and you give some constant value over here, right? So that constant value of torque is available. Now you may have variable values of torque and you try to get the speed torque curve for the vehicle model, and that is how you decide what should be the motor power rating. So once you come up with the motor power rating, you need to actually understand what is going to be the motor voltage and current rating. So based on the motor power rating, you need to decide on the battery ratings, right? So that is how exactly the engineering is getting done, right? So you get the idea about what level of motor power is required. Based on that, you choose a power converter power rating, and then according to the range requirement, you choose the battery type, right? So guys, this is how you keep your all Lego blocks together and create a vehicle model step by step. Now coming back to the presentation, Kaushik, are you there? Can you please confirm my presentation window is visible?
Yes, Vatsal, we can see this slide building block of Simulink method.
Okay, okay. Thanks a lot. So the final model, right, will look something like this, right? So you need to do a lot of experiment on individual system, right? So what you guys see here is a vehicle model. So I have tried to attach a figure, right, or an image over here, and Here I have a DC motor and the drive, right? So simply if I try to create a subsystem with this, right, this is going to be this kind of DC motor drive. So I have tried to get you a picture over here so that you get a better idea about what is there. Now these driver commands are actual signals, and they are converted through physical signal to Simulink signals, and electrical signals will be converted inside of this. Here I have kept a battery subsystem. So this is my vehicle subsystem. This is a motor drive subsystem, including the motor and the power converter. So here is a photograph of the motor. On the same, here is a power converter, right? Then I have a pictorial representation of the battery, and there is a state of charge calculation, and state of charge will be displayed over here, right? So driver model it itself represents how the driver will look like. Now this driver can listen to either of the sources, where it's a drive cycle selected switch, right? So I can use a drive cycle like this, or I can have any other source of drive cycle. So now this is my final model after putting efforts around 4 to 5 days, and trying to fine tune what is the power required by the vehicle, and that is that the power supplied by the motor, is that the energy capacity available in the battery, and how long I can travel, right? So after matching all these parameters and fine tuning this, if I show you my model, which is not exactly this subsystem, right? On all those pictures, you will be able to see this model like this, right? So this is the model which I am talking about, and here I have H bridge connection. Here is my battery, and here is how the driver commands are converted into control signals, right? So acceleration command goes to the PWM signal over here through this, right? So this is a controlled PWM voltage source, and this is exactly the gate driver, right? This is exactly where your sensor will be, right? So here is the acceleration command. The deceleration command similarly goes to the brake over here, right? So it goes to this part, this goes to this, and here is the final brake, right? So my acceleration and the brake commands are given to the H bridge. Now, whatever is the current consumed by this H bridge, that is actually being taken from this battery through this control current source. And I have a vehicle model like this, right? So where R is the rotating part or the rotor part, vehicle velocity, and that is converted into distance over here, right? So let me run the simulation and try to help you out what are the results we are getting, right? Now, apart from this drive cycle, I have few other sources as well, right? So I have a signal builder, and let's say I want to run my vehicle with a very simple signal, right? I do not want to change any speed, right? So let me run my vehicle at a very constant speed, right? So that can also be implemented by a signal builder block. So what is a signal builder block? A signal builder block over here, what it is doing, it is providing a continuous 60 kilometers per hour. So guys, I was discussing about a constant speed operation, right? So let's say you want to test your model in a very simple way, right? So you want to run your vehicle for 60 kilometers per hour continuous speed, right, over the period of time. So when you do that, you can use the signal builder block, and this is going to be 0 initially, and then it is jumping directly to the 60 kilometers per hour, and the vehicle is going to run continuously for 60 kilometers per hour for, let's say, 1800 seconds, right? So guys, I'm going to now check on the comments. So I'm going to simulate this case. So my vehicle is running for 60 kilometers per hour speed for 1800 seconds. How much is going to be the distance the vehicle will cover? So let me check the comments. How much is going to be the distance vehicle is going to cover? Oh, 180 kilometers? No. Pushkar is replying correct. Okay. Mayank, Sachin, yeah. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. 30 kilometers, right? So if I go for half an hour is exactly 1800 seconds, right? So 30 minutes is around 1800 seconds. So it's going to be 30 kilometers, right? So at 60 kilometers per hour, if I travel for 1800 seconds, the vehicle should cover ideally 30 kilometers, right? So let's check out what will happen if we simulate like this. So I'm going to make the switch selector to 1 over here. So what is the meaning of constant 1 over here? Which this means that my source number 1 is selected, right? So you can consider like this: there are four friends, right, in a car. So friend number 1 is this, another one is this, and another one is this, and we have also a real-time driver like this, right? So all these friends can tell the driver what is going to be the speed, right? Now driver need to decide which friend he needs to listen to, right? So there is a selector switch. How this selector switch is going to work? So this point is connected with 1 now, right? And I can select this 1 over here, right? So when I'm going to select this 1, I'm going to use a signal builder, and my vehicle is going to run with a continuously 60 kilometers per hour for 1800 seconds, right? So let me run my vehicle for 1800 seconds. So I'm going to have a stop time of 1800 seconds. So let me hit the run button now. So guys, this is going to take time, and so I have another question. So guys, are we going to observe exact 30 kilometers? Say yes or no. So while the simulation is running, let me take an audience poll, or let me ask you a question. So what will be happening? So I have stopped sharing my screen. What will happen with the vehicle? Will my vehicle cover exactly 30 kilometers? No. Why? Ideally, in the simulation, it should cover. What is okay? Because of losses. Okay, air drag, road conditions, other parameters. Okay, what are these other parameters? Losses in resistance. Okay, so let's check out. Let's see what is going to be the result, right? So let me share my screen. So guys, we are in the half of the simulation time now. Sorry, around 30% of the simulation time now. So if you see the bottom right corner, here is the amount of seconds simulated, right? So this is an 1800 second, and this is going to be around half an hour. So the 30-minute simulation should be ideally finishing in around 1 to 2 minutes, right? So that should be that fast should be the speed, right? And how do you take care of this? So you need to take care of each and every aspect of your model, right? So how those equations are solved in the background, right? Then you will be able to achieve the time limit as well, right? So now we are able to run this, and let me zoom out a bit in the model. Let me go back to the part where we are able to see the state of the charge, the current value, and the acceleration command, and everything, right? So I think now my simulation has finished, right? And let's see the distance. Okay, so the distance available over here is 29.85, right? So let's try to see what has happened with the speed, right? So guys, and whenever I'm showing the speed, I will be basically showing you how the vehicle speed was and what was the actual speed, right? What was the demanded speed and what was the actual speed. So let me share the difference of these two, and let's get the idea about the plot, right? So here is a plot available, and can you see these two plots where the yellow is vehicle and the blue is the drive cycle? They are exactly matching, right? Now there is something happening over here when we have suddenly set the reference to 60 kilometers per hour, right? So when we do so, we actually end up in something where we need to have a finite acceleration period, right? So the acceleration period cannot be very, very small, right? It has to be some value. So what is happening here? So the speed of the vehicle is gradually increasing, right? And how much time is taken by the vehicle to reach from 0 to 60? It is around it's around 10, right? So the 10 second is the time taken by the vehicle to reach from 0 to 60 kilometers per hour, right? So this is what we are doing. Now you may try to increase this to 80 and do the simulation again, or you may try to reduce this, or you may try to fine tune the acceleration over here, right? So if I want to get 0 to 60 kilometers per hour in, let's say, uh, 3 seconds, right? I want to get 0 to 60 kilometers per hour in 3 seconds. What is the modification I'm required to do, right? So guys, I'm going to see your comments. My question is, I want a very fast acceleration. I want a very high torque on the wheel, and it should be a now electric sports car, right? So 0 to 60 kilometers per hour in 3 seconds. How do we achieve that acceleration? So guys, please comment in the chat box about your answers. Reduce the weight of the vehicle, increase the proportional gain. Surya is replying capacitor, no. Increase the current output. Okay, so Kartikeya, I agree with you. So what you need to do, you need to, yes, exactly, the high power motor, correct. So if you want a very high acceleration, your control system should be fast, your vehicle should be also powerful, right? So if you want higher acceleration, you need to have higher power rating of the motor as well, right? So guys, let me go back to my model, and let's try to see what is happening with rest of the things. So what is the state of charge? So yesterday in the webinar we were talking about the battery model, and we were able to do a very simple simulation of this, right? So yesterday we did simulated a very simple small circuit like this. Now today we have incorporated that into a full vehicle model. So what is uh, the state of charge of a battery? So state of charge is going to show you how much is the capacity left, right? So let us see, after traveling 30 kilometers, how much is the battery capacity left? So, and therefore we'll get an idea about what is the range of the vehicle. So here is one represents the 100%, and what is the value at 1800 second, right? So let me show you the value at 1800 second. So let me use this. So here is 0.4, right? So now the 40%, or let's say 35% capacity is left after the vehicle has covered 30 kilometers, right, at 60 kilometers per hour constant speed. So this is one of my observation. So I'm going to note this down, and I'm going to try improving my battery capacity if I want to get the range of 100 kilometers, right? So guys, do you think 100 kilometers would be possible? So no, right? Because if we further extend, right, let's say the state of charge is 50%, we can go maximum up to 60 kilometers, right? But if you want to go to have 100 kilometers range, what you need to do, you need to increase the capacity of your battery, right? So this is about state of charge indicated over here. And if you want to see this, you can also get the idea. So because most of the things are happening at a constant speed, there is not much kind of signal available to see the variation with, right? So this is going to be the acceleration signal, right? So guys, this is what the driver provided to the electrical control circuits. So initially it was very high, near to 1, and there is a limit of saturation at 1. So initially the acceleration was very high because it was jumping from 0 to 60 in no seconds, right? And then for maintaining the 60, the acceleration command is somewhere around zero point 0.3, right? Or 30% duty cycle is required, right? So that is what is happening with the acceleration command. So guys, now let's check out what is happening when we connect this drive cycle, right? So if we have FTP75 and if you want to connect this and if you want to try to see what is happening, let me change this and let's try to visualize what will happen for uh, the second drive cycle source. So this is 2 and I'm going to simulate again. Yeah, so I'm going to end the session now and because yeah, so simulation is going to take 1 or 2 minutes. So let me finish my presentation now. So guys, while the simulation is taking time, let me move ahead. So what you can do, it is very important to come up with a conclusion, right? So what are my conclusion with FTP75? So I was able to get this results and that is what I tabulated and I have a record of it, right? So whether my vehicle reached the top speed, so yes, it was able to reach the top speed of around 90 kilometers per hour. How much is the range of the vehicle or what is the energy consumed per kilometer, right? So I had a battery capacity of around 15 kilowatt hours and 11.88 kilowatt hours were consumed for 17.85 kilometers, right? And 55% of the battery is still left, right? What are my mechanical parameters? My mechanical parameters are like 800 kilogram weight and this as rolling resistance and the drag coefficient, right? Now in case 2, I can have a constant 60 kilometers per hour. Now the vehicle weight can be vary. All these parameters can be different. The state of charge may be also different, right? So this is what is required as a post-processing of the result, right? And that is where after looking at various numbers in all the cases, you can conclude something that if we have higher frontal area, right, then motor power requirement is increased. If we go for a top speed above 100 kilometers per hour, the motor is not matching the requirement, right? So motor is not able to meet the top speed, right? So that is what you need to do. And what are the comments on the result? So you need to prepare your comments on the result as well. So the power rating of the DC motor and the maximum vehicle speed are correlated. The PI control loop gains will help how the references are tracked. The battery discharge and what is going to be the kilometer per charge, how the regenerative braking is helping out, right? That also you can study from this. You can also learn about the various block set over here and you can also compare what is the simulation time and what is the actual drive cycle time and whether my simulation is finishing on time or not, right? So guys, here we are simulating for around 2474 cycles, right? Here I haven't changed that. So here we are simulating for around 1800 seconds and this is taking around 2 to 3 minutes of time, right? And we will get the idea about what is happening with kilometers over here in the distance, right? It's around 12 kilometers now. We will also get the idea about how the speed is looking like, right? So this is how the speed curve is being plotted over here, right? So this is what you are observing. So if I show you how much is the top speed achieved by the vehicle. So this is the top speed around 93 or yeah 93 kilometers per hour, right? So what is happening exactly? So if I zoom in further, right, what I have observed is the yellow and the blue lines are having slight mismatch, right? So this mismatch is basically due to controller gauge, right? It is almost matching, but it is having some difference, right? So this can be fine-tuned again with a PI controller, right? So guys, that's it. I hope you learned